What's up, everyone? It's Anna, also known as that Star Wars girl, and before we get into the topic of today's video, I just need to make an announcement. My channel and my content are not for children, nor have they ever been. So if you are a child, go away now or watch this from a grown-up's account with grown-up supervision. Alright, moving on. So, a lot of news has been coming out in the Star Wars land, the Disney fanfiction Star Wars land. Now, I think it's because it's getting really down to the countdown of the new movie coming out. And once this new movie releases, once it's out into, the ether of the world, a lot of stuff's going to come out of the woodwork. Actors are being a lot more open in interviews. They're saying a lot more controversial things. Certain actors are admitting to never wanting to get back in, the Star Wars universe again. And guess what? Even the idiots that run Star Wars are saying stupid shit about Star Wars. I know people were bugging me about making a video on this topic. I feel like I was busy, moving, so I kind of missed it when the news dropped. I did see it. I was pissed off about it, but when Kathleen Kennedy opened her big stupid mouth and said that, and she was, making passive aggressive comments at Kevin Feige about how, some franchises, they have, 50 plus years worth of, comic books and, books and all this reference and source material. We didn't have that with Star Wars. And it's like, bitch, are you fucking kidding me? Do you want to talk about the expanded universe? You want to talk about, all of this stuff that you had? You had comic books, you had books, you had video games. Did you want to look into that? No, you just wanted to say, guess what, guys? This doesn't exist. It doesn't matter anymore. We're just going to throw it off to the side instead of actually doing your research and understanding the IP that you bought. But guess what? Kathleen Kennedy, president of Disney, of Lucasfilm, doesn't care. It doesn't exist, and it's like, how fucking stupid can you be? And, pissing off a lot of people. But she decided to say that because she was making a passive-aggressive, little comment about Kevin Feige, because, Kevin Feige and Marvel was so successful, and she's blaming the lack of success, even though they're making money, Kevin Feige didn't alienate all the fans. Yes, he changed stuff about Marvel, but guess what? He didn't say, fuck you to all the fans. He's like, no, let me try to adapt this the best way I can for, film. Kathleen Kennedy, whole nother story. But then Bob Iger. Bob Iger has come out of the woodwork. Now, Bob Iger is the CEO of Disney. And he came out with a book about his life, because apparently he's the most amazing person on the face of the planet in his own little mind. And I'm one of the few people that actually read the book, because I feel like when you're playing chess with someone, the more you know about the enemy, the better. And that's, how you beat them at the game. Hey, Kathleen Kennedy doesn't want to admit that there isn't any source material for Star Wars. Guess what? You want to go read the Thrawn trilogy? Guess what? Thrawn is a genius tactician because he does his research on his enemies. That is why he is, the only way he was able to be beaten was because an assassin got to him. That's the only way Thrawn is ever, going to be beaten. But anyway, Kathleen Kennedy doesn't know that because she didn't read the book. She doesn't know about any of the source material. Apparently, none of that exists in her mind. Even though it was in Rebels, even though they have merchandise of it, they don't have merchandise of Baby Yoda. But guess what? There's 3 different action figures of Thrawn. There's the old expanded universe one, there's the Rebels one, and then there's the one that came out with the comic book 2-packs that came out with Thrawn, the Islamari, and Talon Card. And guess what? A comic book about them. Oh my god, but Kathleen Kennedy doesn't want to admit that exists. But anyway, so in the Wall Street Journal, there was this little section, and it has, a little bit about J.J. Abrams, but then a few quotes from Bob Iger. So I wanted to pull this up so that way we could all look at it, and, I had a few things to say about it. And especially after all the news that's come out, this is important to cover. Alright, from the Wall Street Journal. We are walking a very fine line, Mr. Iger said, he told him. If we don't satisfy the most ardent fan, we'd be killed. Really, dude? Really? The new Rise of Skywalker is still expected to be a blockbuster, and those alienated by The Last Jedi have turned to Mr. Abrams with hope. No, we haven't. I'm telling you right now, we have not turned to J.J. Abrams' hope. We haven't. One executive who has worked with Mr. Abrams said the director is keeping longtime fans in mind, saying it is like an invisible fan is whispering in his ear during story meetings. Following the conclusion of the Skywalker trilogy, the Skywalker Saga ended with, Return of the Jedi. That is the end of the Skywalker saga. This, no. This month, Mr. Iger said he wants the next set of movies to be more accessible to common moviegoers unburdened by decades of Star Wars memories, but he knows that will likely alienate some fans. You can't make everyone happy, he said. If you're not going to update a property, he said, you might as well stick it in a museum and watch it get old. Well, Bob Iger, guess what? You're not gonna have any fans left after this. The only fans you got right now are the crazy weirdo Raylowers, and when they don't confirm that in the damn movie, you're gonna piss off those weirdos, and who else are you gonna have left? You alienated the people that made this. Why do you think George Lucas was a billionaire? Oh, guess what? Because he built this fan base with the movie. He created this incredible story with incredible characters in this fantastical universe, and people got behind it because it was something that people could get passionate about. It was a hero's journey. It was this adventure, this space adventure, and it was incredible. People got behind that. People loved this for over 40 years, and then you bought it, and within a few years, you destroyed it. You destroyed it. You were not going to have any fans left after this. You want to go and make this more for common people? Look at how that backfired with Game of Thrones. You guys wanted to go get the 2 Game of Thrones guys to do a trilogy, and then you saw how they royally fucked up with Game of Thrones at the end by their excuse that they wanted it to be, for, soccer moms and NFL players. We didn't want it to be all fantasy. We didn't want to include any of the magic in Game of Thrones that made it cool, that made it interesting, that got normies invested. We wanted to know more about the wargs, but guess what? They didn't want to show any of that. They didn't want to show Lady Stoneheart. They didn't want to get into the magic. They didn't even want to answer the fucking prophecy. They just said, oh, no. And then they made the excuse of, we didn't know what we were doing. Those are the people that wanted to, get the common folk, the normies, invested in it. And guess what? They did it in the beginning because they had source material to go on. But if you are just going to make up this new Star Wars story and, just let's get Star Wars, let's advertise it like it's a Star Wars movie. Let's put Star Wars on the box, and then you go inside and, you go to watch this movie and it's not Star Wars, you're watching like My Little Pony or something, and it's false advertising, people are going to be pissed off beyond belief. You already alienated your fan base. You already did that. You've already been telling them F you for months. How do you think this is going to get better? You want to say, if you don't fix it, it's gonna be like putting it in a museum. Guess what? You're gonna make a shit ton of money off a Star Wars museum. You will. Hey, guess what? If it's not broken, you don't need to fix it. Why don't you just expand upon it? Like, guess what they did in the expanded universe? If you actually did your research and you read the source material that you bought it, you own this, you can go look at all of these fantastical characters with these amazing stories. But no, you don't care. Guess what? All of those expanded universe characters that you don't care about because you don't want to acknowledge that they exist, guess what? One of those action figures sells for, maybe $150 on eBay. Well, as Rose Tico, you can't get people to buy her on super discount for like a penny. Nobody wants to buy these action figures. Nobody cares about these characters, but people care about characters that, were in comic books or in books that have never made it onto the big screen, had never even made it onto the small screen. People care about those characters more than they care about these new Disney Star Wars characters because they don't have any heart into them. They don't have any soul into them. They are just made, to force diversity and to make them a profit when it's not. It's just losing the money. And I don't understand how business people aren't seeing this. It's like, hey, you know what? If, this is causing this much a backlash, this is, putting, hindrance on our sales. Solo epically failed. The toys got super hard marked. When, even though Rogue One, everyone says, Rogue One is the best out of all the Disney movies, or all the Disney Star Wars fan fiction movies, guess what? All those die-casts that they made of Rogue One, they went on super sale at the Disney stores for, $4.99, buy one, get 2 free. Your toys aren't selling well, and that's, where you make a majority of your profit is on the merchandising. Heck, go watch Spaceballs. At the end, when Yogurt's like, oh yeah, Spaceballs 2, the search for more money, I feel like that was a perfect, foreshadowing of what it's going to be like with Disney. Because they just don't care, and it's sad. And the more that these people open up their mouths, the more clueless they prove that they are. It's like, why wouldn't you want to understand your fan base? Why wouldn't you want to understand this IP that you spent $4 billion on? Why wouldn't you want to do that? Why wouldn't you want to make as much money as possible and make the coolest things possible? You have the budget. You have the technology. Heck, you have an unlimited amount of resources. fans have entire YouTube channels dedicated to the lore. You don't even have to go read the books. You can go watch, Star Wars lore channels, and you can learn all of that, and hey, you can get inspiration from some of those characters that people that have actually done the research have gone and made very interesting videos with visual aids for you to understand this. Why doesn't anyone do that? Why don't the people that actually own this, that actually have the power to do that, why don't they have any desire to make something good? They just want to make a quick buck. And I will go back and I will continue to quote this line from Bob Iger's book. Bob Iger really likes to highlight the fact that he was friends with Steve Jobs and how he, bought Pixar. And one of the biggest reasons why he wanted to buy Pixar was because he wanted John Lasseter. He wanted John Lasseter to come and fix Disney animation because the movies, the Disney movies, even though I loved them, the ones that, he felt weren't making them as much money, he felt that they needed to do a redirection with the story. So, the story group, the people that are in charge of, the creative side and writing these movies. And so he wanted John Lasseter. He bought Pixar, he incorporated it into Disney, and he had John Lasseter help as far as, the overseeing of creative, storytelling. And it helped bring Disney animation, helped to make a comeback. Okay, so why wouldn't you want to do that with Star Wars? And then, again, highlighting how he's friends with Steve Jobs. Alright, so one of the things that he talks about in his book about Steve Jobs is that they acquired Marvel. They acquired Marvel, they got Kevin Feige to work on it, and then when Iron Man 2 came out, Steve Jobs picked up the phone, and he called Bob Iger, and he said, hey, that fucking sucked. What the hell was that? And Bob Iger's response was, it doesn't matter if it sucked, it made $75 million in one day. That's all he cares about. He doesn't care if it's quality content. He doesn't care if it's a good story. All he cares about is making money. And it's sad because if that's your only goal, if you don't care about telling good stories, it's not going to stand the test of time. The reason why Star Wars was, what it was, decades after it came out, was because of the amount of time, effort, and energy that George Lucas put into telling this amazing story. They don't understand that, and that's why they're failing. Anyway, guys, I just felt like I needed to talk about that. I need... My throat's a little dry after that. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you thought about this entire ridiculousness in the comments below. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, that's okay too. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Make sure you click that little bell. That way you get notifications when I do other videos and live streams. And until next time, everyone, may the Force be with you because we are really, really, really going to need it. Bye, everyone.